Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is the second day of IMC, and we are here together to get onto a fireside chat about AI on the edge. And who I have with me today is Dr. Shailesh Kumar. He is a chief data scientist at Reliance. He has been an esteemed architect with 22 plus years of experience, and he heads the Digital and AI ML Center of Excellence at Reliance Geo. And we also have with us Mr. Dr. Sudhir Mittal. We all know he's an industry veteran and having network, process, and IT experience of more than 28 years in the telecom domain. And his focus areas has always been architecting, designing, developing, operating, and supporting a number of products and solutions in the areas of 5G, 4G, 3G, and 2G networks. As we move on into the discussion, the topic that we have today and in the current scenario, what we are seeing is that AI is actually getting into a next wave, and that is AI at the edge devices. Um, it brings processing and computing capabilities to the embedded Internet of Things endpoints, gateways, and other devices at the point of use. It is a real-time event technology powering everything from smartphones to smart and automated sensors. But while, from a business perspective, it has been said that enterprises in the coming 3 years is going to spend 30% of their IT budgets on edge cloud computing. But what we have essentially seen, some of the considerations architecturally, it requires a distributed architecture consisting of a multitude of edge nodes being connected over a variety of networks. And thus it presents an expanded vulnerable surface area, which is vulnerable to cyber attacks. And that being one of the challenges that has been talked about, it has also posed a challenge in terms of how do we marry the hybrid environments? How do we deploy this architecture over a brown field, right? Sudhirji, what would you say on that?
Yeah, thank you, and very good afternoon. This is a very interesting topic, and I see that the edge computing usage in the coming years is going to really increase multifold, and maybe from 5% of or so in 2019, it's going to blow up to 50% in 2000. Maybe 22, 23 kind of. And it will be, around 25% of the vital use cases will be really based on edge computing. And so while talking about the architecture, first it is important to understand what are our key factors when we consider the edge computing on the cloud or on far edge or near edge. So there are, by and large, four factors, I would say. One is latency, as we all know, is key. Another one is the data offloading in terms of the bandwidth conservation, and then we want the bandwidth to be used only for the edge and not till the center of the cloud. Mm-hmm. And the third one, as you have rightly mentioned, that is about privacy, security, regulation, because sometimes there are regulations that you can't keep the data outside the country and all, and in such cases, edge becomes a very handy tool naturally, where the data is near to the customer, and that is providing much more regulated compliance. And then the fourth one is the compute infrastructure, where we are talking about there's a lot of local interactivity of various application in compute. and then the autonomy from the central IT systems. That is another piece. Now, having said that, it also poses the security challenge, and if we stitch these four factors in various kinds of edge configurations, whether I talk about a private edge or a public edge, or edge mixed with hyperscaler, and so on. So there are many issues and solutions regarding that, and some of them typically are CASB, or which is cloud access security broker kind of implementations, or PIM, or cloud proxy, or adaptive authentication, and so on. There are many techniques which are very useful in such kind of
So you
security.
you 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 talked about solutions, and let me just bring in Shailesh ji out here. Geo is also known to bring out a lot of solutions around, and especially for the enterprises. Do you see any new architectural considerations that you are doing for coming up with those solutions? Shailesh ji, you are on mute.
Yeah. So let me address this from a different perspective. So the idea is that first thing is we need to not start thinking about the silos of edge versus cloud, AI versus engineering, online versus offline, right? So how do we break these silos in our mind first is very important. For me, edge is
Right.
part of a continuum, right? What is the continuum? The continuum is customer or device on one edge, then simulation data, stimulus coming in, whether it is speech data, video data through any device. Then it is interpreted somewhere, whether it is interpreted at the edge or on the network or on the cloud. Then it is processed, and actions are taken, predictions are done, and all that, and then something goes back to the customer, right? So if you think of this continuum and say, what is the role of edge, what is the role of fog, what is the role of cloud in this? Uh, so think of it from like, if I think of it from a human body perspective, right? We have sensor layer, we have eyes, nose, and all, and we have a
That's
lot of
right.
edge computing that happens already, right? The tongue knows how to interpret the taste, the ear knows how to interpret the ear because we have olfactory system. What goes to the brain is very different than what comes to the sensor, and that is the metaphor I use for edge computing. And the nervous system is a continuum, right? All the way from brain to sensors and interpretation, right? If you think like that, I think what will happen is, as AI technologies will mature, they will become more and more possible on the edge. They will move towards the edge, right? And as they remain complex, they will stay with the cloud, right? This is pretty much what happened, if you will. The other analogies, if you think about DSP, right, digital signal processing. Earlier, it was a software in MATLAB or Simulink, and then it became a chip, because now we have a DSP chip, right? So software to hardware, like that transformation happened. Similarly, cloud to edge transformation will happen, and this is the natural journey, right? Now, obviously, the issues of, like Sudhir talked about, all these issues, right? And one of the big problems is, the data getting transmitted, and quantum computing coming poses the biggest risk to all these security scenarios, right? So even if I have an encrypted data coming from edge, from device to to the system, and anybody has a port that they can listen in and collect, they can actually decrypt it using quantum. And that, I think, is one of the biggest areas. Therefore, security is a very important area that all of us are worried about. And not for just security as security, but we are saying that people are going to transmit private data on it, right? Like, see, why we are comfortable with WhatsApp is end-to-end encryption. Now, imagine if something like that is possible in this world also, end-to-end encryption, right? Device to edge and back, and whatever edge to cloud and back is end-to-end encryption, right? If those things are possible, and they are possible, we know how it is done, we can do this in these environments also. So that is one area that needs a lot of work before people start building trust on this, right? The other thing is people are going to transmit sometimes private data, right? Like telecom itself is a private conversation. It needs to be encrypted and all that. But now imagine people are sending their X-ray data over the edge and saying interpret that, or they're sending their report cards of children or whatever, right? Or videos of classrooms going on, and they're being interpreted, and all that. So a lot of private data is coming that people don't want others to see. For public sharing, you
That's
have
right.
YouTube and TikTok, but for this, so I think privacy, security, aware edge systems is is important, and I think 5G plus edge is a natural combination, and there will be important protocols that will be created to make sure all this is taken care from the get go, because we know that these are the problems that are coming.
Yeah, that's right. And the one of the very good analogies that you gave is basically that edge is about the touch and feel, right?
Yes.
Bringing in reflexes in the endpoints.
Yes.
So Sudhirji, how is Airtel bringing about the touch and feel?
So what we are trying to do here is going near to the touch and feel, or near to the customer as much as possible. And I would say whether it is Airtel or whether it is Geo, telcos have a distinct advantage where they naturally are near to the customer. And we have, for example, hundreds of our various tiers of data centers spread across India already, and then those are de facto edge locations. And then
Hmm.
we can immediately start gaining from that. And some of the use cases, we are already working on, or maybe something like a content delivery, or some advanced gaming applications, and maybe something like surveillance and analytics, and some security applications, which we have already launched actually from our various edge sides. And some POC or something we are talking about in Industry 4.0 kind of context, and also some POCs and all in the network function virtualization. So this is all,
Hmm.
these all are advantages which naturally come to a telco, I would say. So this
That's
is
right.
latency, which a typical telco would talk about is, if I talk about a tier 3 kind of situation, which is very near to the customer, is maybe 5 millisecond or less, which is really a good latency figure for any use case we are talking about.
Yeah, I'm perfect. And that's a nice thought to bring in. And so whether it is Airtel or whether it is Geo, we do understand that 5G, although is not typically important or mandatory, but it actually helps you bring that latency down as much as possible. And obviously, AI Edge is expected to revolutionize the market. It will create wider capabilities, enable new use cases. And if we can just keep a little cognizance on the security aspect, on really using the touch and feel, and I love that word. So into edge, then we have a dawn of intelligent creativity era, right?
Yes.
Um, Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Sudhirji and Shaileshji. It was nice talking to you.
Nice talking
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Sudhir.